Welcome to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar, everybody. I have a glow behind me because my future is so bright, or maybe it's my past because it's behind me. I don't know. How's everybody doing? And so we're still waiting for the good doctor to join us. I'm not worried though. He's been here every week. He's seeing patients today. So today, in addition to talking about the diabetes solution kit, which everyone is most excited about, I'm sure, we're also going to talk about high blood pressure. And we have the high blood pressure solution kit. So high blood pressure and diabetes often go hand in hand. The nice thing is when you take care of one, you often also take care of the other by doing the same things, which is changing up your diet, adding a few nutrients that you might be missing, things like that. And so we're going to get into that today as soon as Dr. Scott joins us. So thanks for joining us, everybody. We are on Zoom live right now, and we also record this and put it onto our YouTube channel. So if you're watching this on YouTube later, then why don't you go ahead and register at bartonwebinar.com. Put your email address in there, and you'll get notified for when we go live again, which is every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Time. So I've got my snowboard hoodie on today. This is actually something that my son designed, the BRTN. Feeling kind of warm inside, but it's 5 degrees outside, and that's actually warming up. It was 8 below zero, I think, this morning when we went to get our COVID tests. So a bunch of people from our team are flying to Dubai tomorrow morning, including Leslie, who is here in the background, but she is, well, they just moved to a new house and also getting ready to go to Dubai. And so she's just, we're going to let her just do her thing in the background, and we're going to try to survive. Thankfully, she's recording this because I sometimes forget to record when I do this on my own. So, but let's see, let's give a disclaimer because we like to do that. So this webinar is for informational purposes only. We cover a lot of great topics. We get into teaching people how to reverse type 2 diabetes naturally. But of course, everybody's different and unique. And so we don't know your personal situation. Dr. Saunders is not your personal doctor, doesn't know your history, medical history, medications you might be on, different allergies, all that kind of stuff. So take this, with, you do your own research as well and work with your own doctor or healthcare professional. And that's our disclaimer. So yeah, hello. We got people saying hi in the chat. That's great. So tell us where you're from. Annette from Seffner, Florida. Awesome. I don't know where Seffner is. I've never heard of that before. Is it a bustling metropolis or is it a small town? I'm going to be going to Florida. When is that? I think I have 2 trips to Florida planned, maybe just one. In April, I think I'm going to a leadership conference it's called EOS, the traction tools and traction system that we use to help run our company and run meetings and different things like that. So that'll be in Orlando. Looking forward to that. All right, we got Idaho, Madison, Wisconsin, Charlotte, North Carolina, and let's see, British Columbia, Canada. Fantastic. Seffner is a small community in Tampa. All right, I love Tampa. That is a great place. Went to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Minnesota Vikings game last year. And Tom Brady, I'd never watched him in person. And I think he gets, I don't know what it is. He's got a special deal with the referees that I think he paid him off. What can I say? Not really, but he's pretty good. But I'm not holding any grudges against them. So, all right, Nashville, Tennessee. Awesome. Dade City, Florida. Allen, Texas, near Dallas. And it's 24 degrees in Texas. Wow. That seems kind of cold for Texas, but it's warmer than 5 degrees. So you can be thankful for that. Another one in Texas, Malden, SS. What is SS? Saskatchewan? Saudi, maybe it's a typo. I don't know. Malden. Kalamazoo, Michigan. New York City. Hillsborough, New Jersey. This is awesome. Napa, California. Wine country right there. All right. Ann from Pine City, Minnesota. I know her. My sister. Hello, Ann. Also known as Annie. Little sis. You know, when I was younger, she had long hair, and I was a really good older brother for the most part, but I would try tying her hair into knots. And I don't know if it's possible. Like if you take one strand of hair and you try to like do like a thing and it just doesn't work. Maybe it was her hair. I don't know. Does that make me a bad brother? I think it's like brothers are supposed to do that. Dundee, Illinois, Jacksonville, Florida, Houston, Texas, Greenville, South Carolina. Hey, Dr. Saunders. Yes.
Did you miss me?
I was running out of material. Wow, we were having some good monologue here because Leslie's she's kind of doing her thing, packing up and all that good stuff. So we've got all sorts of chat going on though. So it's great to hear from everybody telling us where they're coming in from. Seems like it's, well, let's see, 63 degrees in South Carolina. That's the warmest I've seen so far. It's 5 degrees where I am. How about you, Dr. Saunders?
Gosh, it's probably about, I don't know, in the 60s, 65 maybe-ish.
Not bad, not bad. All right, well, we are talking about high blood pressure today. I already did the disclaimer. I set everything up. All we got to do is start talking about high blood pressure. And I talked a little bit about how if you fix one, you kind of fix the other usually because the treatment is often the same. So why don't you get us into talking about high blood pressure, and then at the end, towards the end, in about 15-20 minutes, we'll start taking your questions about diabetes or high blood pressure and all that. So all right, here we go.
Okay, so one of the myths about blood pressure is that blood pressure causes damage to your arteries. And often it's actually the reverse. People who have damaged arteries get high blood pressure. How so? Well, you have to understand how the system works, and it's a beautiful system. You have the heart that pumps into a tube like a pipe that we call the artery, right? So the heart's pumping the blood in there. But there's so much more going on than that. It's not just a pump. The heart is pumping, and as the heart is pushing blood in, the artery is relaxing. The arteries actually have muscles in them, and the arteries are relaxing. So the heart pumps and the artery relaxes and lets the blood into the arteries, and then the heart relaxes and there's not pumping at all, and the arteries are closing down. So if you can feel your pressure right here, and you can just go, you can feel that artery and go, oh yeah, you know what? You can feel the artery going like this. And so what's happening is the heart's pumping, the artery's relaxing, and then the artery's pumping and the heart's relaxing. So you have this going on all the time. And why is that important? Because that's how things flow nicely through your body. You got to think of the thousands of gallons a day is being pumped through that heart. If the heart had a stiff artery and had to pump all that blood through, that would wear out your heart pretty quickly, and you'd get this thick heart and you'd end up with congestive heart failure. Well, what do we see? A lot of congestive heart failure. Why? Because those arteries are stiff, and when they're stiff, they're not compliant. So the heart pumps and the blood pressure shoots way up, 200, and then the heart relaxes and it comes down a little bit, but it takes a long time for that blood to flow through because the artery is not helping at all. So it's gotta push through. So then the blood pressure starts coming down a little bit, and then the heart pumps again and shoots it way up again. So you have this, 160 over 90 or 200 over 100. I had somebody recently. So blood pressure is a function of how the circulation is working. Let's look at other possibilities. Sometimes your body will stiffen the arteries and clamp them down and say, you know, we're going to close down those arteries. Have you ever had white fingers, like you go out in the snow, you're making snowballs, you're throwing snowballs, and then you're done, you're like, oh my gosh, my hands are freezing and they're so cold and they're white. Why are they white?
There's no blood there.
Yeah, there's no blood there. That's why. And it's because your body is just clamped down the arteries. It's like, no, we're not putting any blood through there because we'll lose all our heat. So in order to conserve heat, the body just shuts off the blood vessels. Well, the body can shut off your arteries anywhere in your body. In fact, if you have like severe bleeding somewhere, the body can shut off those vessels to conserve the blood for the rest of the body, kind of thing. And what often happens is, like with a stroke or something, the brain is saying, I'm not getting enough blood, I need more blood. And so the brain controls the blood by sending signals to the heart and saying, dude, you better pump more, and to the autonomic nervous system to shut off all your arteries. So all your arteries in your body close down in order to get blood up to your head. Well, what happens when all the arteries in your body are closed down? You got stiff arteries, and there's more pressure in there. So now the heart's pumping through there, driving up the pressure. And it's all because your brain has a stroke and there's a blocked artery somewhere, and the brain's screaming on the other side, going, hey, need more, higher pressure. And so somebody goes into the emergency department and they're having a stroke. And what's their blood pressure? Well, 200 over 100. I've seen higher, 250 over 150. And they're like, oh my gosh, no wonder you're having a stroke. It's because your blood pressure is high. Does that make sense? Well, sure, it makes sense to you, but it's wrong. It's entirely wrong. It's the opposite. Your blood pressure is high because you're having a stroke and your brain is screaming for more blood and you're not getting it. So the brain is saying more, driving up the blood pressure more and more, squeezing down the arteries to squeeze more blood up to the top. And so that's why. So people, when they go into the emergency department with a stroke in their brain and their blood pressure is 200 over 150, what's the doctor going to do when they check the blood pressure? Oh my gosh, your blood pressure is high. We better drop your blood pressure. So they used to give what's called sublingual nifedipine. They just under the tongue, they'd give sublingual, and that would just dilate all the blood vessels and drop the blood pressure. And then what happens? Well, now the brain has no circulation at all, and the patient dies. And it happened over and over and over again. People are coming in with a stroke, drop the blood pressure, they die. Coming in another stroke, someone else with a stroke, drop the blood pressure, they die. Someone else with a stroke, drop the blood pressure, they die. It took many years of doing this before they said, hey, what the heck? How come so many people die at that hospital with a stroke? Oh, it's because they're dropping the blood pressure. They're using that sublingual nifedipine. And so they don't do that anymore, hopefully. Some of them do. You know what? Things take a long time to change, and people are trained that way, where they say, oh, we got to drop the blood pressure, instead of dealing with the problem of opening up the artery in the brain, which we can now do. You know, not me personally, but a good neurologist can open up that clogged artery. They use something called TPA, which is activates plasminogen. Plasminogen goes in and eats up the clot, and then restores flow to the brain. And as soon as they restore flow to the brain, where does the brain go? Okay, we're good. Boom, blood pressure comes down. And that's the way the system works. So so blood pressure is not what you were told. It's not doing damage to your artery. It's not creating strokes. As a matter of fact, there is a really good correlation between stroke, death risk from stroke, and blood pressure. As the blood pressure goes up, the death risk from stroke goes up, and there's that line. And so it seems obvious that higher blood pressure, higher stroke risk. But what's really weird about that is let's say you have this high stroke risk, and your blood pressure is really high. If you drop the blood pressure down, the stroke risk stays exactly the same. Or if you use a drug to drop if you use a drug to drop the blood pressure, it does not change your risk of stroke. That's the strange thing about it. Just dropping your blood pressure with a medication is not an answer to either prevention of strokes, prevention of heart attacks, or decreasing your stroke or heart attacks for that matter. So the important thing to know is that your blood pressure is still important. I had somebody last week. She came in with her blood pressure and she said, well, it's usually running between 150 and 200. And I'm like, well, that's too high. She said, well, you told me it was okay. No, I said, no, it's not okay. It's just that's not damaging your arteries. That's not the cause of high blood pressure. You still need to know why it's high, because if it's high because your adrenal glands aren't functioning, you got to fix the adrenal glands, or you're still going to get heart disease. You're still going to get strokes. You're going to have problems. The stroke risk doesn't change with dropping the blood pressure. But if you know why your blood pressure is high, then you can deal with whatever the problem is and then prevent the heart disease and the strokes and the other vascular disease, kidney disease and Alzheimer's and all that other stuff. So when you have diabetes, now let's go into the other part with diabetes. When you have type 2, your risk of blood pressure is significantly higher. And that's a different symptom. It's not directly correlated with diabetes, but indirectly, you're more likely to have a increased blood pressure when your insulin is high. Well, why is that? It's the same process, but it's a little bit different. So when the brain isn't getting enough blood, it screams out, hey, I need more blood, and squeezes all the blood vessels down and makes them stiff so that the blood pressure goes up so they can push all the blood up to your head, right? What happens when your brain isn't getting enough sugar? Same thing happens. It's exactly the same process. The brain's saying, hey, I'm starving here, give me more. And that's the only mechanism that the brain has of increasing its supply of sugar, because the brain has to have a constant supply of sugar. But the problem is that, remember we talked about last time, the glucose transport proteins can't get the sugar from the blood into the brain. So there's no way to transport it from there to there. So the blood pressure goes up, but the brain still isn't getting more sugar. It's just increasing the pressure out here, but there's still no glucose transport proteins to get it in there. So raising the blood pressure doesn't fix the problem. So the blood pressure just stays high. So you drop the blood pressure, it's not gonna damage your brain by dropping the blood pressure. It's okay. You know, the blood pressure medications aren't going to kill you, but it doesn't address the problem. So you're still going to have the problem of a shrinking brain, and you're going to end up with Alzheimer's, dementia, because you didn't address the problem of this lack of energy getting to your brain. So in that case, the blood pressure medication is just a distraction. It's not harmful like in the stroke risk case. It's just a distraction. So when you have type 2 and you have high pressure, then high blood pressure, what do you need to do? It's really simple. You drop the blood sugar down so that your blood-brain barrier makes more glucose transport proteins. And when that happens, then your brain starts getting enough sugar and the brain goes, now I have enough energy. I'm okay. So you can drop the blood pressure now. And the brain will drop the blood pressure automatically. So that's why there's an association, but not causation. It's just an association. But it's still good to know, because then you know, oh, I don't need that medication. I need to do this instead. Well, that's what the kit is all about. If you know about the diabetes solution kit, what is it? It is getting that blood sugar down into the normal range between 70 and 90. And one of the benefits of that is that you're going to increase that glucose transport from your blood into your brain, so that you don't end up with Alzheimer's or dementia or other, well, not strokes, but other brain issues, memory problems and stuff like that.
Interesting, very interesting. So there's that brain connection. I was thinking, we talked about stress quite a bit. So why does stress increase blood pressure?
Okay, different issue entirely.
Okay.
Now that's a hormonal issue. When you increase stress, you increase the adrenal hormone output, which includes cortisol, adrenaline. Adrenaline makes your heart beat harder, and at the same time, it causes the blood vessels to constrict down. So that's going to what? Increase your pressure. That's what it does. So yeah, stress is definitely another way to increase pressure. And there's another one that I didn't talk about, and that is kidney disease. The kidneys are controlling your blood pressure constantly. And so when the kidneys aren't seeing enough sugar, also, they still have that same problem of getting sugar across the membrane. Which is why people with diabetes have kidney disease, and their blood pressure goes up too. And if they don't have high blood pressure, they don't have kidney disease. But pressure didn't cause the kidney disease. It's actually the other way around. The kidney disease causes the high pressure. Same thing as the brain, really.
Yeah. You mentioned arteries and like just having the flexibility and the pliability, or whatever you'd call that. And so that is important. You don't want hardening of your arteries. And that's connected to Alzheimer's too, in the brain, right? Hardening.
You betcha.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's all connected as well. Like, and there's a sugar, too much sugar, it plays a factor in that.
Yeah. Too much sugar is another. It's another risk factor. It's a different one where the brain is starving amidst all this sugar. Like there's a sea of sugar. Your blood sugar is like 300, but the brain is going, hey, I don't have any sugar here, because it can't get from the blood into the brain. So the brain is starving, and that's all. I mean, it sounds horrible, but that's really what's going on, is the brain is just starving.
We had a question about, you mentioned kidney. Denise said, I have high blood pressure due to kidney disease. I take metoprolol for it. I can lower my blood pressure or can I lower my blood pressure naturally, or will I have to be on blood pressure medication for the rest of my life?
Okay, that's where, like, an individual case, if you already have kidney disease, you want to do everything you can to prevent further damage to the kidneys, because I have not yet had a case, and I don't know of any cases where we can reverse kidney disease. Once you have a decreased function in the kidneys, then it's not something you can go back and fix. Like your liver, you can fix. You can regenerate the liver. That's not a problem. But kidneys, you don't regenerate. So one of the really important things that you do when especially if you already have kidney disease, is protect your kidneys. So if that means dropping the blood pressure with a beta blocker, okay, fine. There is some evidence of benefit for that, but really the ideal thing, it seems like the ACE inhibitors, or the ARB, or angiotensin receptor blockers, are a better choice for protecting the kidneys. But finding out why and saying, is the renin elevated? And if so, how can I improve the blood flow or the energy production in the kidneys? So one of the important things is get that blood sugar under control. Get on phase one. Phase one of the program is going to bring your blood sugar into the normal level. That is so important so that you can actually increase those glucose transport proteins and get energy to your kidneys so that they can function properly and you're not losing more kidney cells.
Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by synaroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking synaroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated synaroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With synaroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients. The perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those two together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using synaroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get synaroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, synaroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar.
I had a friend text me yesterday. Her husband's in the hospital, a good friend of ours. He's had some kind of a viral GI bug and he's battling, his kidneys are shutting down and they're finding out he's got an autoimmune process and they're doing plasmapheresis, I think it's called, and using some steroids. But that's a little side personal note. Do you have any experience with that or anything?
Well, unfortunately, yes. Autoimmune kidney disease is a terrible thing to have. Like I said, you don't get it back. It's not something like, oh yeah, you had bad disease and now we just gotta wait for your kidneys to heal. If you've lost those glomeruli, I don't know that they come back. So the autoimmune, the plasmapheresis means they're taking the plasma out of his body, they're spinning it down, getting rid of all those proteins. They're the immunoglobulins that are attacking the kidneys, so to speak, and they're taking them all out so that the kidneys aren't embroiled in this war, and so that they can get the inflammation down and save some of the kidney function. So yeah, that's a tough process, and that's not something you can do with a supplement or something. Plasmapheresis is like, okay, that's urgent. You got to take care of that right now.
So yeah, you need a kidney specialist for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to send that to her. All right. Well, we have a lot of good questions here. I just want to take a quick minute to thank everybody for joining us, and especially the people that have shared their stories and success stories. And Leslie has been jumping on Zoom calls privately with people who've shared and recorded their story, and we're getting those uploaded to YouTube, and really appreciate hearing from you guys, hearing your success, hearing and then sharing it with others, because I know it's encouraging. And people, if you're brand new to this, you might be wondering like, hey, can I even do this? And what's going on here? Does this stuff really work? Yes, it does. We have thousands of testimonials, and we're trying to get more of those videos recorded just to share that, to build some momentum as well. And so we just had one come in from Annette. Since June of 2020, the diabetes solution kit I've used to guide my everyday living with type 2 diabetes. The kit has such awesome information. I recommend it to everyone. Thank you. So thanks for sharing that, Annette. And yeah, if you're brand new to this, if you don't already have a copy of the diabetes solution kit, you can get it at bartonpublishing.com, bartonwebinar.com. And our supplements are available through bartonnutrition.com. But pretty much if you search Barton something, you'll find us. But bartonwebinar.com is kind of the easiest place to go. So, all right, let's jump into some more questions here. We have Krish with who continues to show his high IQ way beyond mine. From your recent webinars, I gather there is an inverse correlation between blood pressure and eye intraocular pressure. Given that it is equally important to have a low IOP or BP maybe, and also a desired low BP, what numbers for each will you recommend? Oh, IOP is intraocular. What numbers for each will you recommend at the same time fulfilling the inverse correlation? Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, actually, that is a thing. You know, as I was researching glaucoma, the lower blood pressure correlates with a higher intraocular pressure. And but there is a meeting of the minds at some point. So, you know, right around a normal 120/80 type blood pressure produces the optimum intraocular pressure as well, which is I think between 10 and 15. It's been a long time. But so yeah, having a normal blood pressure is fine. When your blood pressure drops low, then the intraocular pressure tends to go higher. And why that is a mystery to everyone, you know, because why that correlation happens. There's an association, but having a normal blood pressure is fine. Then you're having a normal intraocular pressure.
So speaking of normal blood pressure, I think a year or two ago, some authority came out and said your blood pressure should actually be 110/70. Now, was that just is that just because they want people on more blood pressure drugs to get them down to that, or is that actually true, or what's normal?
That might be for reasons to put people on medication, blood pressure medications, because that is the lowest blood pressure that you can call normal. Because as you drop blood pressure lower than that, then you stop getting good circulation. So you really need that at least 110/70. And so there is a higher correlation of myocardial infarction with blood pressures below 70. So essentially, probably what they're saying is that's the lowest pressure that's safe, the lowest safe pressure you can have. If you drop below that, it's too low. And so I'm just assuming that would be, that's why they said that.
Okay. Can you talk quick, like we have this turmeric BP, which has turmeric root extract, and then the black pepper biopsy. Why does this help with blood pressure?
Okay, so remember I was talking about stiff arteries. When you have inflammation, inflammation causes constriction of arteries in some areas and dilation of arteries in other areas. And when you have general body inflammation, you cause more, it's kind of like the stress, more adrenaline to be produced. When you drop the inflammation, then things are controlled better. You don't have that sympathetic stimulation that causes constriction of blood vessels. So it's really an inflammation thing. And inflammation is related to heart disease as well, and diabetes type 2. You know, lowering the inflammation improves blood sugar control as well, blood pressure control. And anyway, so that's the advantage of turmeric is a good choice for that.
Okay. I was going to say too, if you go to bartonwebinar.com, you can find turmeric on there and use that coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off. And also be checking your emails, watch the emails that we send out. We sometimes will have sales when you buy multiple bottles of turmeric, and you might have some, if you've been with us for a while, you might have some in, in your email inbox, or you can search and find those perhaps as well. Or just send an email to our customer support team. Cheryl or somebody there will be happy to help you find one of our past sales that might still be available. So her email address is support@bartonpublishing.com. Okay, let's see here. Does high blood pressure cause dizziness and loss of balance?
High blood pressure. Okay. Again, association and not causative specifically. When your blood pressure drops low, then you're definitely going to be more likely to stand up and get, whoa, dizziness, loss of balance, because you're not getting enough blood up to your head. And then that creates that dizziness and loss of balance. High blood pressure, on the other hand, if it constricts the blood vessels that are going to your ears primarily, but also the posterior brain, the cerebellum, in that area, then if you decrease the flow, then it's going to cause those kinds of things, loss of balance. And so if anybody's ever heard of POTS, P-O-T-S, is postural orthostatic hypotension, or POTS, postural orthostatic syndrome.
Fluxamation.
Yeah, syndrome. I'm blanking on it. Anyway, what that is essentially the same thing, where you have constriction of blood vessels preventing the blood from flowing to areas of the brain that cause you to have orthostatic hypotension, low blood pressure with dizziness and that.
All right, question from Sue. Here we go, Sue. Should adrenals be regularly checked? We don't hear about that too much.
Yeah, you should regularly check your adrenals. Okay, adrenals are easy to check. That's why nobody really checks them, is because number one, they're easy to check. Number two, you can't mess with them very much. But if you have high blood pressure, you should check your adrenals. And if they don't check your adrenals, they hear take a pill to lower your blood pressure, go, wait a minute, have you checked my adrenals yet? Because that's a not uncommon problem with having high blood pressure. And I've had a few, maybe 3 or 4 cases in 30 years of people who actually had tumors in their adrenal glands. And you've got 2 adrenal glands, so they took out one adrenal gland and the other one's functioning fine, and the blood pressure came down and they're on no medication. So it's not common, but it happens, and they should be checked. On the other hand, just to go and check them periodically, it isn't necessary, because if your blood pressure is okay, you probably don't have too much adrenals. If you're sleeping okay, if you have good circadian rhythm, or you're waking up in the morning, sleeping at night, and you're not fatigued all the time, then there's no reason to just go in and check your adrenals.
Good to know. All right. Can you talk a little bit about lipitor, metformin, and grapefruit? There seems to be a connection there.
Okay. Well, okay, let me start with grapefruit. I like grapefruit. Okay, next, metformin. Okay, so grapefruit has a chemical in it that blocks one of the cytochrome P450 enzymes that breaks down metformin and what was the other one that you mentioned?
Lipitor.
Okay, lipitor, and there was another one. Oh, Coumadin.
Okay.
So there are certain drugs that require the same enzyme as the grapefruit, and the grapefruit inhibits it so that you can't break it down. So that you're taking these drugs like metformin or something, and you're eating grapefruit. and then the levels go up too high and they become toxic. So the grapefruit didn't cause the toxicity, except that it inhibited the normal breakdown mechanism of the drug. So yeah, you got to be careful somewhat. If you occasionally eat grapefruits, it's not going to be a big deal. But if you're eating grapefruits every day, it could affect it.
Okay. All right. For the sake of clarity, could you please explain what is required to be checked before checking high blood pressure? Anything?
What is required to be checked before checking for high blood pressure? Okay. So okay, so what do you check for when you have before taking a drug for high blood pressure, for example, what do you need to know? Okay, you need to know if your adrenal glands are functioning properly. You need to know if your kidneys are functioning properly. So for example, I just had somebody, in fact, this Tuesday, he's flying to Connecticut to have a surgery on his blood vessel going to the kidney, because he had a constriction in the blood vessel going to the kidney, that the kidney saying, hey, I'm low pressure here, we need more pressure, and it's putting out a whole bunch of renin, making angiotensin, that causing the blood pressure to go up, and it was a kidney problem the whole time, and he'd been on drugs for years, and then so he came and I said, no, well, what's the cause? Why is your blood pressure that high? That's not normal. And so we started looking, and we found that it was a constricted artery going to the kidney. And so it was hard to find, but they eventually found it with an ultrasound. So he's going to have surgery on that. And once they repair that, because it's like a kink in it, and so they're going to repair it, put a stent, or I don't know what they're going to do. And then his blood pressure should come back normal. Now he's not going to need any medication. So adrenal glands, kidneys, brain, blood sugar. Remember that bringing the sugar across the blood-brain barrier also works in the kidneys. That's an important thing too. So the sugar could be at least a secondary issue. What are other hormones? Thyroid hormone is an important one to know about. Let's see, adrenals. Is that a good start?
That's a good start. I was just going to say, so I'm kind of a layman. I mean, I've learned a ton from being on the webinars almost every week. I missed a few, but I've learned a lot. So I just want to maybe share with everybody watching, what are the top 5 things you can do to improve your health? And this is me processing what Dr. Saunders has said over the last couple of years. And so number 1 for good health is lowering your carbs, your carbohydrate intake, and tied with that is probably fasting. So fasting, really just limiting, having nothing, letting your body go into a state of repair. And whether you fast for 18 hours or several days, that's one of the fastest ways you can get your numbers and your body to recalibrate, almost reboot itself. And so we teach the 6-10 reset, which means stop eating at 6 o'clock so that you can go to bed at 10 o'clock on an empty stomach, unless you've eaten a hamburger the night before, which I did last night, and realized at 4 in the morning, it's still in my stomach. So don't do that. But if you're eating low carbs, and if you're just eating a hamburger, that's low carb. But if you have all the other stuff with it, that's not low carb. But so you have to watch. And the key is going to bed on an empty stomach at 10 o'clock. So eating in order to do that. And then your body gets into a state of repair. You have the human growth hormone that is released at 10 p.m. if you're asleep on an empty stomach. And those are the 2 big things. Exercise is huge. Lowering your stress is huge. Looking for ways in your life, where am I stressed? What's causing me anxiety or stress, or why, that type of thing. And then there's also missing nutrients, minerals, vitamins that we're deficient in, that we're not getting from our diets, which is why we have synaroma, the #1 selling blood sugar support, but it's because it has chromium, selenium, vanadium, vitamin D, vitamin K, and cinnamon bark extract in there. Like 5 of those things are what people need, but are deficient in. So that's like a real quick overview. Like those are things, like get those things implemented quickly and experience the results. So, okay. Anything to add to that, Dr. Saunders, before we get back?
Oh, that was great.
All right.
I would put fasting number 1. But, yeah.
I realized that after I started, I'm like, yeah, fasting. So funny story. Kevin, was it Kevin or Tyler? I don't know. We're going to Dubai, tomorrow, and to avoid jet lag, like you recommend, find out what time when it's 8:00 a.m. in Dubai, stop eating 24 hours before then. And you said you've done that when you've traveled and had 0 jet lag. So now the hard part is like, okay, if it's 8:00 in Dubai, it's 10 p.m. here. Does that mean I stop eating at 10 p.m. tonight or tomorrow night? So, because I don't know, I think it's tonight, which will then be like 36 hours.
Yeah, just make it 24 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. Except they're on the airplane, they're probably gonna come by with some really good food. I have to say no.
I know. That's hard.
Yeah, I can do it. We can do it.
I was on Turkish Airways once, and man, they had good looking food, but I'm like, no, can't eat it.
All right. I'll do my best.
Smells good.
I'm not gonna promise, but I'm gonna try. Okay. Can apple cider vinegar be taken at night with that empty stomach program? I don't really have 2 hours after supper for an empty stomach to take it. So I think. Oh
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you can take like the ACV, like a pill or a tablespoon of apple cider and water, or one of those, the lean ACV. That's fine. That's fine. You can take that at night. So the key is to have an empty stomach, and things that don't have any calories empty out pretty quickly. But if you drank a quart of water or something, or a whole pint of water or something, then that stretches your stomach and prevents you from making ghrelin, so you can't release human growth hormone. But if you take a little bit of something, that's not going to be an issue. It'll empty out pretty quickly.
And the ACV helps digest, like it's acidic, right? So it kind of like gets things moving. So.
And can prevent acid reflux. So yeah, that's good.
Why does excessive alcohol drinking increase blood pressure?
Man. Okay. That we can do a whole thing on that. Okay. Alcohol is a toxin, period. It's just a toxin. Yes, it works in the brain. It works on the GABA receptors in the brain. And that's why people feel good. They get sleepy and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like a benzodiazepine. It takes away the anxiety, sense of anxiety that people have. And that's how it works in the brain. But in the liver, it's a toxin. And so it's creating toxicity in the liver. And then the liver makes it into an aldehyde. And formaldehyde is quite toxic. And that's what causes the bad feeling, the terrible. And then when people take, what is it, Antabuse? Antabuse is a drug that blocks the enzyme that allows that aldehyde, formaldehyde, to be processed. So you get more and more of that, and you get really sick. So some people get really sick from just drinking a small amount of alcohol. But okay, so why does the blood pressure go up? The blood pressure goes up because of toxicity in the body has the same kind of effect of, like I was saying, the lack of blood sugar. It's the brain is saying, hey, I need more circulation here. So the brain tells the sympathetic nervous system to close down those blood vessels and push more blood up to the head. I've got a detox here. I need more circulation. So it's kind of a need thing.
Okay. Lots of questions. I don't know that we're going to be able to get to all of them here, but we'll do our best. How can I have a fruit smoothie without spiking my blood sugar? Should I add fiber?
Man, yeah, add fiber, put a little bit of fruit and then a lot of like green vegetables, and take all those the free foods, celery and greens and all that, and throw that in there in large amounts, and then put a couple of strawberries and I don't know, if you're going to have something sweet, you're probably going to spike your blood sugar. But yes, more fiber does prevent that spike to some extent.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. About the synaroma, we do not have it in the UK. Do you know of any medical or medicine in similar products in the UK? I think you can order it. You should be able to order synaroma from our website and get it delivered to the UK. Just go to bartonnutrition.com and put your order in there. And you can use that webinar 25 coupon code. So that should work. And it is available on Amazon as well. It's priced a little higher because we lose a fair amount of money when Amazon sells it. So it's cheaper if you get it direct from us on bartonnutrition.com. Okay, so if you're planning on fasting for a couple of days, should you stop taking all your supplements, but not prescriptions, I would guess?
Good question. Yeah, you have to be really careful when you're fasting. Supplements, just consider them to be food. And since you're not eating food, take them out. Not an issue. But if you're treating something specific, I don't know, let me think, like thyroid, for example. I have a patient that had thyroid cancer, had the thyroid removed. Well, she can't stop taking her thyroid medication just because she's fasting, because she doesn't have a thyroid gland. So if you don't have a thyroid gland, you should be continuing your thyroid supplement. The other kinds of things, though, it depends, because blood pressure medications, for example, you have to be really careful. As you're fasting, your blood pressure is going to drop down. It's going to go up first, and then it's going to drop down. And it can go down too low if you're on medication. So if you start getting dizziness or anything, you may have to call your doctor who prescribed it and say, hey, dude, I'm getting really like these side effects from the drugs, and how can we change that? And then the other one is the blood sugar medications, metformin, especially if it's things like glipizide or glyburide. Those medications can drop the blood sugar too low. And if you're fasting and your blood sugar drops too low, then you don't have any way of bringing it up. You're not just gonna eat some food or drink some orange juice and have your blood sugar go up again, because then you'll be chasing it all over the place. So it's a good idea to work carefully with whoever prescribed your medications to either not take them while you're doing it, and that's usually not a problem, or at least monitor very carefully while you are.
All right. Krish said he's taking synaroma, healthy gut support, and Nervala. His fasting blood sugar for the past several weeks is 104 to 110, which is good. I think that's come down quite a bit from what it used to be. So he's also taking sodium butyrate to promote gut flora, and he's just wondering, is it necessary to take that every day?
Okay, the sodium butyrate is an anti-inflammatory for the gut. It's really important. It doesn't really promote the gut flora such as it's made by the gut flora. It's made by the good bacteria like lactobacillus. So I prefer, I don't prescribe sodium butyrate unless somebody actually has like inflammatory bowel disease, and because it'll shut down the inflammation. And so that's a treatment for inflammatory bowel disease in my book. And I prefer to have them have the bacteria and have them eating the fiber, so that the bacteria make the short chain fatty acids like the butyrate. So yeah, so I prefer doing a prebiotic with lactobacillus.
All right. William wants to know, so Leslie, we had talked about eye health providers. Question was, what's the difference between optometrists and ophthalmologists for routine eye care? One says they can or can't do surgery. And what's your opinion?
The ophthalmologists are medical doctors that are trained in surgical ophthalmology, so they can do surgery. they'll take your cataract out and put a new lens in, and they'll inject into the eyes and all that stuff. Whereas the optometrist is primarily concerned with refraction, like glasses and contacts and that kind of stuff.
Okay. What are some good ways to lower your cortisol levels?
That's another whole big webinar all in itself. Lower the cortisol levels. The 6-10 reset is a great way to get a good circadian rhythm. Meditation, prayer, exercise, avoid stimulants, avoid coffee, avoid sugar, avoid high starch, because sugars are stimulants to the adrenal glands as well. Go on a ketogenic diet. Rest, get sleep properly. So that's part of the 6-10 reset, is good sleep. Did I already say exercise? Make sure you have focus. If your mind is focused, your circadian rhythm and your adrenal hormones, cortisol, are going to be a lot better than if you don't have any focus, if you don't know where you're going. Then you tend to get a lot more adrenal output, a lot more stress.
All right. Rapid fire. Is there any risk to taking Benadryl on a daily basis to help with sleeping?
Yes. Yes. Benadryl increases your risk of Alzheimer's quite dramatically by inhibiting acetylcholine, which is what you need for memory. So yes, it drops your memory. It's not a good daily practice. Now, you're much better off using melatonin.
Melatonin. Okay. Real quick, everyone, we're not going to get to all of the questions here, but hey, go check out our webinars that we have archived on our YouTube channel. Go to bartonwebinar.com and then click on the YouTube link. That'll take you right there. But there's so much good information, so many good questions that have been answered. You can increase the speed oftentimes on YouTube if you want to listen.
That's what I do.
1.5, 1.75, whatever.
My son goes on 3.0.
If you start at 2 or 3 and then you drop it down, it's like, oh, that I can, hear that a lot better. So
Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by synaroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking synaroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated synaroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With synaroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients. The perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those 2 together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using synaroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get synaroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, synaroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar.
But I think we're actually going to wrap up here for today. A lot of good questions. Join us again next week. And but yeah, in the meantime, continue learning. Go watch some of these archived webinars in the past and just continue to learn. That's so important. And put it into practice what you learn.
Maybe we can take these and start off next week with the questions that are that are currently there.
Yeah, if Leslie happens to be here that could copy these down or something for us, that would be good. And then we can do that. So otherwise, you'll just have to come back next week and ask the same questions. And so, but I think also in the YouTube channel, there is a way you can search in our channel and like,
wow, really?
Keyword. Yeah, we've been
awesome.
Doing some, what do you call it? Keyword transcription a little bit. So try that. And if you can't find it, then come back and ask here. So, but like these two products, the diabetes solution kit and the high blood pressure solution kit, these are really good. Read through these. You'll learn a lot as well. Keep learning, keep putting it into practice. Be doers of the word, like James said in the Bible, right? So you're not going to experience the success if you don't actually put it into practice. And that's a principle of life. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Saunders.
You're
love
welcome.
to learn from you. Love to spend time with you and appreciate your time. And we'll see you next time. So,
Okay. See you next
all right.
time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.